Good morning. Welcome. Those that are watching online, those that are watching in person, make sure you subscribe, you share, you like. Let's get the learning of Torah spread as far and as wide as we can. There was once an optometrist who was training his son into the business. And he said, if somebody comes in and wants to buy a pair of glasses, so he tries something on, he asks you how much it costs, say it's $200. If he doesn't squint or scream, say the frames, the lenses are another $200. And if he doesn't squint, say each. The life of Yaakov Avinu is filled with a lot of hardship, quite a bit of challenge and suffering. And we really learn about the majority of it in this week's Parsha, when it really begins. We find later on, when he's going to meet Parai in Parshas Vayechi, he tells him that my life was difficult, to say the least. Okay, and there's different explanations of why he said that and why he's telling Parai that. Be it as it may, he had problems, issues. He suffered a lot during his lifetime. So much so that Yaakov Avinu said, my life, meaning my quality of life, did not reach this of my fathers, which means Yitzchak and Avram. Because since I was young, I was not, what?
This is not in this part.
No. We're getting somewhere.
Okay.
We're not going to sit, this class is not going to be that long. It's not going to go a few weeks straight, but I did not rest since I was, young. I had problems with Lavan, which is in this week's parsha. I had problems with Esau, which is in this week's parsha. I had problems with Rachel, issues that she passed away, and so on and so forth. Now, it begins in the beginning of this week's parsha. He has to run away from home. And not just home. Yaakov was a studious boy, and later a young man. He was someone that sat and learned all day. He was not involved in worldly affairs. He wasn't he wasn't a hustler. Okay? But his brother wants to kill him. So by his mother's advice and his father's blessing, he runs to Haran. And he's running alone. Now Esau is not so quick to stop pursuing him and trying to kill him. He puts out a reward, basically. I mean, he tells his son, go find him and kill him. And he finds him. He catches up to Yaakov, and Eliphaz was his name, Esau's son. He said, I have to kill you. He said, what do you mean? He said, well, my father said I have to kill you, and I need to honor my father. And by the way, even Esau, whatever he was, when it came to honoring his father, he was very meticulous about that. And his son inherited the same thing. He said, listen, the murder is murder, but I got to honor my father. So Yaakov said, I have an idea for you. The Gemara tells us that ha'ani chashuv kimeis, a truly impoverished person is considered like he's dead. So why don't you take everything I have? Take my money, take any valuables, I'll give it all away to you. And the reality is that Yaakov, who came from a rich home, is now going, and he is alone, himself, with nothing. And we'll take questions, okay? As he's running, it's getting dark, he has to go to sleep. So to go to sleep, it's in the wilderness, it's in the middle of nowhere. Even if there were hotels, he couldn't afford it. So he lies down to sleep, and he takes some stones and puts it around his head for protection. Wild animals or whatever else is going on there. And the question is, how is that going to help you? You're going to put a few stones around your head, it's not enough, right? You need to have stones around your whole body to protect you. Okay? It's silly to think that I'll protect my head from wild animals, but your feet, your body, well, what's going to be here? And this is it's not a new question. The general Hasidic masters talk about this at length. There are many different answers for this, and I want to share some of them and explain perhaps a little bit deeper what's the significance of putting stones around his head. They say like this, that you have to do your part in life. You can't just say, oh, Hashem is going to take care of it, and that's it. If you want to make a living, you have a mitzvah to earn money, you have to go and work. If you don't have a job, you have to look for a job. You can't just assume that everything's going to fall into your lap. You have to put in effort. But the effort that you put in is a tool, it's a means to the end, which is the blessing of Hashem. You do your part, and Hashem does his part. Yaakov Avinu has to do his part to protect himself. So he puts stones. You don't have to really go crazy and build a whole wall and put everything around your whole body. It's enough just to put it around your head. That's enough for Yaakov Avinu. Somebody asked the Rebbe once by dollars, he wants to buy the lottery. How many tickets should he buy? How much should he invest in the lottery? The Rebbe said 1 ticket. If you're going to do it, do 1. Because you're doing your part. Hashem is going to provide. You don't think I'm going to get 10 tickets. First of all, your chances don't go up that much. But the point is that you need to make some effort on your part and you rely on Hashem. But to do nothing, that's incorrect. There's a beautiful story of the Baal Shem Tov, who once was a Friday, late morning. He goes over to the house of a very wealthy individual, knocks on the door, and leaves. Until the guy gets up from his coffee and walks to the door and opens it up, he sees the Baal Shem Tov is walking away. He runs after him. He says, Rebbe, how can I help you? I mean, you knocked, you left. What happened? He said, I need money for Shabbos. I don't have. So I want to ask you. But I did my part. I knock on the door, and that's it. I left. So the story explains to us, to a certain level, obviously it's a tzaddik, and most people can operate that way, that we do our part. We don't think for a second that it's the work that's going to produce. It's your investment that's going to give you the return. It is Hashem's blessing. And the way Hashem set up the world is you have to do something. So this is for tzaddikim. We have to do a little bit more, but it helps us understand why Yaakov surrounded his head only with stones, not his whole body. Okay. Today's class, I forgot to mention, is the Ilui Nishmas. I forget the name. We'll get the name soon. Of just a second here. We'll pull it up. For Asher Ruven ben Zev Halevi and Sarah Rezel Bas Avram. It's very graciously dedicated by Bill and Sue Auerbach. And Asher Ruven ben Zev Halevi is Mrs. Auerbach's father, and Sarah Rezel Bas Avram is Bill's aunt. Shamashav and Aliyah, the learning that we have today should be the schus for their merit and the Ilu Nishmasam. Today is both of their yard sites. So the idea is that we have to put in our part. We have to do something for us, right? To get the brachas of Hashem. But how much do you have to do? We can't overdo it. And a tzaddik does minimal. You have to protect your body, he puts it around his head. Baal Shem Tov needs money, he knocks on the door. He doesn't even have the discussion, he leaves. And it gets taken care of. Okay. But the Rebbe talks about another explanation, another lesson here, which is very relevant and applicable for our lives. And it's another understanding in surrounding his head with stones. What's bothering Yaakov Avinu is not literally wild animals and dangerous beasts. That's not what he's really concerned about. He's concerned about the new life that awaits him. Remember, he's leaving Yitzchak's house. He's leaving Eretz Yisrael. He's leaving an environment of learning Torah, and he's going into the big, wild world, to the house of Lavan. And he's concerned that I may drown in the stresses and worries of making a living. I'm starting from zero. One man, right? Who knows what's going to be? So he's scared. He doesn't want that it should get to his head and it should use up all of his physical, emotional, mental strength, and he won't be available and he won't be present to serve Hashem properly. That was his concern. The biggest enemy for spiritual advancement and growth is exhaustion. It's being stressed out. It's being tired. Okay? It's not the Avera itself. What does Torah tell us regarding Amalek? You were tired and worn out. You were exhausted. Okay, that was the biggest issue, is the state of mind that we were at that time. We were traveling, millions of people. We just left Mitzrayim. We were warned, and that's a potential cause for a lot of downfall. Yaakov Avinu was afraid of that. How is that going to work out? Okay, our keiches are limited. He knows he's going into the world. He's going to have to work. What's going to be with my learning? What's going to be with my davening? What's going to be with working on myself? He was concerned about it.
This is a Rebbe you say.
One of the big questions when it comes to relationships, husband and wife, parents and children, many relationships. What's causing that change, that things are going downhill, heaven forbid? And very often what it is using the word stress, but it's the daily grind, okay? That person, it's not that they have anything, there was no fight, there was no conflict, it was just day-to-day life, the routine, the running around, the requirement of all these chores and deadlines and bills and things to meet. They wear the person, and they don't focus so much on the relationship, on the person, whether it's their spouse, whether it's their children. Things happen to they wear the person down, and it causes side effects in those areas. Okay, let's put it that way. This is what Yaakov Avinu was afraid of. Of course, I serve Hashem. I sit and learn. I have no worries in the world, right? I sit and daven. I learn. But now I'm traveling. I'm going to sleep now. Let me understand what's awaiting me. It's not about wild animals. That's a minor thing. Okay. It says in Mishlei, Eved ad masa yisba lechem. A person that works his earth. If you work the earth, then you will be satisfied from bread. What does Rashi tell us? So the Gemara in Sanhedrin Daf Ches says that a person that really wants to earn from working the land, the earth, you have to become a slave to the land. You get up very, very early in the morning, and you work, and you try very, very, very hard, and you're a slave. You're completely dedicated and given over to it. That's when you'll see results. That's when you'll see produce. That's when you'll have benefit from all the effort that you're putting in. Now, the result of that is that a person gets empty, a person gets drained, a person gets finished. Okay. What tends to happen is the things that are urgent, we tend to, and the things that are important go by the wayside. And that's a result, and that comes together when a person is very, very involved with making a living. Okay. So Yaakov Avinu was dealing with that. What was his solution? And what could be our solution? His solution was to surround his head with stones. What's the idea of surrounding your head with stones? He wanted to make a separation, right? To divide between my livelihood and me, between my work and my essence. Or another way to say this is, he wanted to define priorities in his life. There are a lot of things I'm going to have to do, and a lot of them are important. But if everything has the same importance, then nothing is important. Okay? You have to have levels. And taking the stones and surrounding your head was separating. Of course there's a body. Of course there's physical things I have to tend to. I'm going to do that for a reason. That's what Hashem wants. We live in a world. But there are differences. Okay? Practically translated, a person has to work, but he has to have a schedule and have to have set times for learning, set times for davening, set times for spending quality time with his family. These are things which are, that's what Yaakov was paving the way 4,000 years ago. Putting up stones between his head and the rest of the body, between his head and the rest of the world. Okay? And by the way, it's not just separating the times that you work from the other times. It could happen while you're learning. While you're learning. For example, I see someone online is watching, is asking if I'm stressed out. No. For example, there's a story about a chassid of the Rebbe Marash. His name was Reb Abba Ginsburg. And this Reb Abba went into the Rebbe Marash. And he was a very wealthy man, a very successful businessman. And this chassid, the Rebbe Marash asked the chassid, "How are your spiritual affairs? How are you doing spiritually?" So he said, "Baruch Hashem, I daven 3 times a day with a minyan." And the Rebbe was very disappointed. He said, "That's your gift to Hashem. That's your return. You have so much success. You're seeing such happiness in your life. That's what you're able to do. To just daven with a minyan, like it's not enough." And he was so broken from it when he heard that the Rebbe was disappointed with his spiritual life, that Rebbe Abba is not really doing the way it was. He spent a lot of time, I don't know if it was days or weeks, very engrossed in his thoughts and thinking what he could do and so on. And he decided that he's going to drop his business, stop working, and go, and enough money, he'll go and learn full-time, daven and learn. And he came to Rebbe Marash excitedly to tell him about his plan. He's changing his path in life. Rebbe Marash told him, no, this is incorrect. Someone that sees success in what they do, someone that is on a certain road and it's working, you don't have to stop doing that. You have to work. But work the way that Torah wants you to work. Don't forget about learning. Don't forget about spirituality and so on. And when you have a free moment while you're working, learn. When you're interacting with people, think about holy thoughts. Okay? And that's what Yaakov Avinu was doing. He didn't say, that's it, I'm running away. I'm not going to go to work. I'll figure out a way. Hashem will provide. I'll send a message home to get money from my father. No, he'll work. But there's going to be a differentiation. There's going to be a separation between the priorities in life. And that's one of the things we find, that Yaakov Avinu set up Tchum Shabbos. Right? When he arrived, he made a tchum. Tchum is the limits, the boundaries of how much a person is allowed to travel on Shabbos outside of the city limits. So you can't just, although you're walking, technically you're not violating the Shabbos, but if you go a certain distance outside of the city limits, where there's no houses there, people are not living there, that's considered to be travel, and that's not allowed. And Yaakov Avinu set that up. There was a recognition. Shabbos is going to be in my life. And no matter how hard I work during the week, and no matter how long those hours are, there's going to be a day that's going to be Shabbos. And that Shabbos is going to be a time for me to focus on spirituality. And every day he did that. Every night he did that. He composed the Shir HaMailos, the 15 verses of the chapters of Tehillim, which are praising Hashem. He was davening, he was learning, he was thanking Hashem. He was focused. There's a story about Rabbi Lipsker, Rabbi Shalom Bar Lipsker, Shliach in Bell Harbor. He was once doing a wedding. The wedding was not in Miami proper. It was, I think, a couple-hour drive.
The father of Rabbi Lipsker here?
No. He was doing it was a few-hour drive from the Jewish community. He was doing a wedding. And at this wedding, the witness that had to show up he was the first witness, he was the second witness to make the wedding valid, did not show up. And they're at the chuppah, and they don't have another witness. Now, in order to be a kosher witness, you have to keep Shabbos and kashrus. And the guest at this wedding, Rabbi Lipsker got up and he said, does anyone here keep Shabbos? And we need a witness. And nobody raised their hand. So he said, what are we going to do? I have to make the wedding. And he can't call anyone. It'll take a few hours to get there. So he gets to the mic and he says, would anyone consider giving a gift to the groom and the bride in honor of their wedding, and frankly making the wedding happen, to commit sincerely to start keeping Shabbos? So there's like a hushed in the audience, and one guy raises his hand and he says, yes, I'll do it. So he comes over and says, you know what this means? Like starting this week, because you have to be a kosher witness. You can't go to work, you can't go out, you can't. And they're talking about it a little bit, and he says, yeah, I'm in. And he's talking a little more, and he sees that he's sincere. And the sincere acceptance of Shabbos, and he knows what he's getting into and so on, would be enough to make him a Shomer Shabbos.
Very cool.
And he became the second witness, and they had the wedding. But But Rabbi Lipsker relates, and this is the point, that I don't know how many years later he was in Eretz Yisrael by the Kaisel, and somebody comes over to him and says, "Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi, you recognize me?" I don't know you. He says, "I was the man at the wedding that you were looking for a witness, and I decided to keep Shabbos. And I want to tell you," he says, "that many of his friends who were married are having issues, and things are not the way they should with their children and with their spouses and whatever it is. And he is among the group that's happy in his relationships, family-wise, with his kids, with his wife, and so on." And he says, "I attribute it to the fact that every Friday night on Shabbos day, we had a meal together. And there was no business meetings, and there was no going out, and I was committed, and I stuck to it, and I see the results that are coming." So as we talk about Yaakov Avinu making Chum Shabbos, Yaakov Avinu setting up stones to surround his head, which is really creating that boundary between what's important and what is also important, but on a different level, we have to remember there's also benefits from this. There's also in life, that's the way it is, but that's what Torah wants, that we should learn from Yaakov to have those important differentiations in life. And when it comes to spirituality, when it comes to our learning, when it comes to our davening, yes, we have to put an effort in our work. And Yaakov Avinu did that. And he worked very, very hard, long days and nights for 20 years. And he amassed a tremendous amount of wealth, really. However, it was in a way that he had time for learning and he had time for davening, and it didn't drain him to the level where he was devoid of any spiritual productivity and any development in his closeness to Hashem.
Yaakov, amazing.
Where did you set up at home?
When he came to Lavan.
Oh,